3, 2, 1 countdown.
Okay.
I can't understand a word you said.
3, 2, 1, go. Okay, well, I am Sandra Lafke Carlson, and I'm here in Tualatin at the Sweet House on Boone's Ferry with Jack Broome and Mike Lofton, and it's May 24th, 2018, and we're here to record some of Jack's memories of his life, and he's got some topics to touch on, and I hope we can talk about your early life and your career.
Well, we don't want to do all that.
Well, we'll just...
Because I had a wonderful early life.
Did you?
Oh, sure.
Where were you born and when?
Middle Haddam, Connecticut, 1923.
Oh.
And I went to school there, and then I went in the Marine Corps. I was going to join the Air Force. And a friend of mine, he said, why do you want to do that? You know, join the Marine Corps. So I did. There you are.
Oh.
And I made Master Technical Sergeant. I would have been an officer. When I got out, I was in the regular Marine Corps, not the reserves. So when I got out, they said, well, you know, Mr. Broome, if you stay in, we can give you a lieutenant for starts. And I said, no, I want to go to college. And I did. I had saved money. I was in the South Pacific about a year and a half. Couldn't spend my money, and I had flight pay, Master Sergeant, with flight pay, make money hand over fist. And I sent it all home. My mother, unfortunately, used a lot of it. But there was enough left that I could go to college. Well, the GI Bill came along. And so...
And what college did you go to?
University of Oregon. My friend Ben Bisbee, who was in the Marine Corps, was a tech sergeant. And when we talked about what we're going to do after the war, that's all we talked about. Oh boy, we're going to eat steak, and we're going to drink Coca-Cola, and eat chocolate ice cream, and love it up with our girlfriends or whatever, you know. So when I told him that, he said, well, why don't you come out to Oregon? Because I didn't have anything to do in the summer. And so I did. I came out to Oregon. I'll never forget it. I could go on for hours. I had so many great experiences. Fantastic.
Really?
I've just had a wonderful life until now. It's no fun living with somebody that has Alzheimer's. She doesn't know who I am half the time.
Yeah.
It's tough.
Did you meet her, your wife, Althea, when you got here?
Yes. Oh, yeah, of course.
And how did you meet?
37 years ago. Well, my firm was hired to do an urban renewal study for Tualatin. And I was a partner in charge. So I was up there telling them about all these great things we were going to do. And so she came up afterwards. That's how I met her. And she said, well, I live in this old house, Willowbrook. And I said, really? I was born in a house called Winebrook, 1740. That's not old for New England.
Really?
Well, it's old, but the English came there about in the 1600s. So 1740 was sort of in between. The Revolutionary War didn't start till what, about 1785 or something like that.
17.
I don't know. I'm tough on dates.
Yeah. So you met Althea, and she was already in the house here.
Oh yeah, she bought this. She's owned this house for about 100 and not 100, for about 65 years.
Okay,
something like that. Okay. I don't know. I truly don't remember. And I can't ask her because her standard answer is, I don't remember.
Yeah.
And she doesn't.
Yeah. When you've lived a long time, that's a lot to remember.
Well, 95. That's longer than most. And Althea's 96. So I think we could make 100. I do. I really do.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to.
What was your first impression of the house when you saw it?
Well, I spent $250,000 fixing up this place. The first impression of this house was, my God, how are we going to fix this place? A new roof, new foundation, the porches. We tore off all the porches all around here.
Did.
I have a picture of this house with no porches. It looked like a New England house.
Oh.
But what's her
And
name? Sweet.
Maria Sweet.
Maria Sweet. Maria. She was smart enough that Althea says, you can tell a woman designed this house because there's so many windows. Well, that's okay with me. And so I don't know who designed it, but somebody did a good job, because even this porch here, see, that's only 5 feet wide. But in the hottest day of the year, like about now, the sun does not get into the kitchen. The porches shelter the house. And living back here, we never hear them. Of course, if a train goes by with its whistle, we hear that. But other than that, we don't hear anything. But if we're in the living room, we can hear things. There's a lot of traffic. It's a very busy corner here.
Yeah. Well, so this house is, I think it's 160 years old? Something like that.
Something like that, yep. I've heard different stories of when it was really built. And it depends, because this part was built first and they lived in it.
The kitchen?
The kitchen was the living room and the kitchen and the dining room and everything, and 2 bedrooms upstairs for the kids. The Sweeks had a lot of kids, but not then. And the front part was built later, and John Sweek was up in Clearwater, Idaho, mining the miners. You know, they really were. An egg, you know, $1 for an egg.
Oh, yeah.
And things like that. And then they had a fire in Clearwater, or wherever the hell he was. And everything burned down except his store, which was brick. So it was a piece of cake to rebuild, because his building wasn't ruined in the first place. But all wooden buildings were ruined. So he came down here and he talked to Maria. He says, well, this is a great house. How are you going to pay for it? And she said, and I think I told you this, but that she would pay people. She'd have parties here. This was when Oregon became a state instead of a territory. And she'd have parties, and people could come here, and she'd charge them $1 a day. And they could sleep upstairs. And she gave them dinner at night, breakfast in the morning, food for the horse, $1. And for $1, she could hire a carpenter. So if she had 20 people coming, she made $20. That's
a lot.
20 carpenters, or 10 carpenters twice a day, you know, 2 days, whatever. So the house was built by carpenters, but not by idiots. And they knew what they were doing. Except the one thing is the way that there was no proper foundation for this house. I could go on for hours about Willowbrook. You don't want me to do that.
Oh, well.
So, no, what's the next question?
Well, so you got your education, and you decided to become an architect because somebody had suggested it to you?
That I don't know. I know that I didn't want to be a forester because I went up to Mount Hood and bought a couple, 3 forest fires.
Oh, you did?
And I said, well, that's not for me. I'm not going to be a forester. And I don't know, the reason I thought about architecture was that I thought, well, that's pretty good. You're indoors part of the time and outdoors part of the time. Well, it turns out that you're indoors more than you're outdoors, by far. So anyway, that's how come I became an architect. And I became president of the Portland chapter, president of the Oregon Council of Architects, and I became a fellow and all that jazz. We can fill in some blanks later on if you want.
Okay.
So, yeah, being a fellow in the AIA was a pretty good deal.
Yeah.
And it's for life. See, I'm still a fellow.
Oh, you are?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
You bet.
Now you lived a little bit in Norway, I think.
Yes. Well, that's another story. When I was at the University of Oregon, my little 5th year, 5 years for architecture, this good-looking girl looked like Ingrid Bergman. She was beautiful. She was a Norwegian exchange student, a Fulbright fellow, working on a master's. So we got to know each other, and one thing led to another, you know. So we got married in Eugene. And then the following spring, she said, well, she finished up her classes And she said, well, I'm going to go back to Norway. I had no idea what her family was like, but they were a very good family. They lived in a house as big as this, bigger than this by far. They were all naval architects, and just a wonderful family by the name of Vedler, V-E-D-E-L-E-R. It's a German name, but there's a damn ant. We have trouble with ants. Carpenter ants, little tiny ants, all kinds of ants.
Yeah, I suppose any house of any
wooden
age.
And out here we're not, we don't have any neighbors nearby.
Yeah.
The nearest guy is way across up there to the north.
Yeah. Well,
I don't even know who he is.
So you lived in Norway for a couple of years?
Yeah, about a little over 2 1/3 or so.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
Something like that.
but you came back.
Yes.
Oregon.
Well, I had the idea that I could do better as an architect back in the States. The fact of the matter was, because of Ingeborg's family connections, I got to know everybody that meant anything to anybody, She had relatives that were elected officials, senators and doctors and Indian chiefs. There weren't any Indian chiefs, but doctors, architects. One of her cousins was an architect, became a very good friend of mine. Her 2 brothers were both naval architects. Her father was a naval architect, and we lived in this great big house. So, on top of the world, But then I got the strange idea that I could do better back here. Well, I'm not sure I did. But I did. I came back, and she said, I'm sorry, I'm not going back there again. I have a good life here. She was an architect also. And she said, I'm staying here. I've got a job, a good family, blah, blah, blah. So I'm staying here. So I came back on my own. I think that was, I can't say that very much around Althea, for instance.
Well, yeah.
Because
that was your first life.
you can figure that one out.
Yeah.
Althea is troubled with jealousy. She can't help it, but she's jealous of everybody.
Oh, no.
If she knew you were here, she'd be jealous of you.
Jealous. Oh dear.
But she can't help it. It's a mental illness.
Yeah. Well.
Alzheimer's.
But you married. You fell in love with Althea.
We went to Europe.
Married.
We went to Ireland and Switzerland and England and Norway and Denmark. That's it. But it was wonderful. Switzerland, boy, let me tell you, I love that place, but I'm too old to be traveling. But Switzerland's fantastic. It's expensive.
Okay. Is it?
But it's absolutely as beautiful as any picture you ever saw.
Well, what was your impression of Tualatin when you first got
Well,
here?
it was only 3,000 people here. So I just figured, well, this is another small town. But I was impressed by this house. Well, it is big. It's the biggest house in Tualatin. And the oldest. Well, there's one other apparently that's as old as this one. I can't remember who it is. In fact, in my mind, there wasn't any house older. But apparently there was. Lois would know.
Yeah.
She knows everything.
Yeah. Well, this is a very special house.
Yeah.
Because it's been
It
here
really
so
is.
long.
And I'm sorry I can't give you a tour today.
Oh,
but,
no, that's
but
fine.
you've done it.
I think I have.
You have.
Yes.
Oh, we could do it again, but Althea,
Yeah.
she's not really,
It would be upsetting.
she would,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Yeah.
That is, she might be. We never know. She's 2 people.
Yeah.
When she wakes up in the morning, well, which Althea is it today?
Yeah.
Is matter than the devil? Or sweetness and light?
Well, so you Tualatin was smaller then. There were fewer people. You liked the house.
And Tualatin
And-
decided to have an urban renewal study. And so our office did planning as well as architecture. So one of the guys in my office, Bill Finley, see, I owe something to everybody. Bill is the guy who said, hey, there's a job out in Tualatin. We ought to apply for that.
Yeah.
So we did, and we got the job.
You did. Okay.
So Bill worked on it, I worked on it, Bob Belcher worked on it, a lot of people.
Okay.
But I say, I'm not a self-made man. Everybody said something. In fact, when I came back from Norway, I was working for another architectural firm here, and a guy, Troy Jenkins, came up to me and he said, "Hey Jack, do you ever think of starting your own architectural firm?" And I said, "No, I just got my license." And he said, "Well, if you start your firm and hire me, I can throw in 3 good jobs." So I did, he did, and away we went.
You say people that you've never done anything in your life alone, that there's always...
Just about everything we ever did. I can't remember. Bill Gillum and I took care of the church when it was still a church, before they gave it to the Historical Society.
Well, you did.
So Bill was a very important guy, but he died early. I can't remember what it was. He died of it. It was sad,
Yeah,
because he was a nice guy.
he was, yeah.
And his wife, Anita. You know Anita?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Anita Gillum. Yeah.
yes, I know her. And,
But I didn't meet her when Bill was alive. I just met her when I really got
Was that
involved with the
right?
Historical Society.
and were you involved in the church? I mean, did you
No.
attend that church, but you
I'm an
helped?
atheist,
Okay.
for whatever that's worth. I can't believe all this stuff. I envy people who are religious. They have something to fall back on that I don't have. But I can't buy all this business about Christ is up there behind a cloud someplace. And then now we have satellites up there and they've never seen anybody. So I say, well, it never happened. And Jesus and God didn't write the Bible. It was written by human beings.
Would you say you're a spiritual person at all?
What?
A spiritual person?
Never. Well, I shouldn't say never. I was an acolyte in the Episcopal Church in Middle Haddam.
Okay.
I'd go out in my robes with a candle and light all the candles and all that jazz. That when I was only 10 or 12 years old.
Well,
I think the Marine Corps did it. I think when I put in 4 years in the Marine Corps and went to the South Pacific, somewhere along the line I just sort of gave up on religion.
did you see any battle? What was that experience
No,
like?
but I was a navigator bombardier. I mean, flew about 50 missions.
Oh, you did?
Oh yeah. But I never got a scratch. Luck. Never a scratch.
Wow.
And I came back and everything I ever wanted to do, I did. And it's just luck. It wasn't brilliance on my part. I mean, I didn't think about coming out to Oregon, for goodness sakes. Ben Bisbee is the guy that said, well, you ought to come out to Oregon. We hire people in the summer, and we have a great school of forestry. See, I was going to be a forester. And when I lived there up in Hood River, when I lived there, we went up and fought 3 small forest fires in the Mount Hood National Forest, those small ones. And I said, well, geez, this is not for me. I'm not going to be a forester if that's what they do. Well, it isn't what they do, but it's what I thought they did. So I don't know how it was I decided to become an architect. I wanted to do something that took some brain power, and I was good in math, and I'm visually oriented. And so I thought, well, architecture, gee, they're indoors and outdoors, and they design things, and they use math and all that. So that's how I picked up that. And I called my mother back east and said, guess what, I'm going to be an architect. She said, oh, your grandfather was an architect. He was.
Really?
Yes. He was a very good architect, designed the New Jersey State Capitol building.
Really?
Yes. Had a competition, he won.
Oh.
So
So it was kind of in your blood.
my father,
maybe.
well, yeah, my father was a cowboy. I mean, in the Old West when they carried guns. And I asked him about that, and he said, oh, well, we carried a gun to shoot the rattlesnakes. Well, that was good enough for me, So, and somehow he ended up working for the New Mexico State Highway Department as a cartographer. You know what a cartographer is? Maps. Beautiful, my God. His lettering looked, you couldn't believe it. It looked like it was printed, you know, by a machine.
Now, you lived in New Mexico
Yes,
as a
but not
child?
for very long.
Okay.
We went back there from Connecticut. And I think, although I was never told, and I was a little kid, that my father and mother didn't get along all that well. That, you know, in the old days, that could happen, but you never got a divorce. And they were all both Episcopalians. I don't know how much you know about the various denominations, but Episcopalians, they're damn near like the Catholics. You do not get a divorce. I guess today you do, but not then. That was in 1931.
Okay.
Big Depression.
Oh, yeah.
So we came back to Connecticut, and I had an absolutely idyllic childhood. And we had food. My mother planted the garden, and she canned everything. And we lived like kings. The Depression never affected us at all. It's amazing.
Did you ever have people come to your door asking for?
Now and then. My mother always give them
money?
something. And they'd go on to work. They were not jerks, you know. They were hobos, but hell, they could have been doctors or lawyers, priests, whatever. And they always worked, did something. She always had something for them to do. They could spade part of the garden, they could mow the lawn, they could do this, they could do that. And they did. And she fixed them a nice dinner, and they'd go on their way. God only knows where they slept at night, at some barn, in a haymow, probably.
Yeah. Did you have
Middletown, Connecticut was a decent city, about the size of Tualatin, 30,000 or more. And that's where the lines were, you know, waiting to get food, get a cup of tea or an apple or something. Poor guys. But I never experienced that. The whole recession or depression never touched me at all.
Didn't. You were fortunate.
And then I went through high school, still didn't bother us. And then World War II, you know, December 1941 came along, and I went in the Marine Corps. I had a great time in the Marine Corps. Went to the South Pacific, never got wounded, never got shot down. Fantastic. I came back out here, had a good job, went to college, met my wife, Ingeborg, went to Norway, traveled around Europe. So, you know, I've had a good life. I have. It's not so great right now.
Did you
Well,
have
yes,
brothers
I
or
had a
sisters?
sister. That's a good question. I had a sister who was 8 years older than I am.
Oh.
So, Althea said, well, you were lucky you had two mothers. Well, I did.
Oh, you did.
Because my sister was, you know, 8 years older, and she'd read to me Robin Hood, you know, and Ivanhoe, and all English history, and fables, you know. Wonderful. Just, I couldn't have had a better sister.
And she's passed away now.
Oh, yes. Several years ago. She died when she was about 85, 86.
Okay.
So, Christ. And then they had that, and she was 9 years older than I was. So that was a long time ago.
Yeah. When you moved here, you did some gardening, didn't you?
I
when
did
you
everything.
First lived here.
I mowed the lawn, I planted the garden, I pruned the trees, everything. You name it. You look around. I took care of everything. Well, I can't now at 95. I hire a guy.
Yeah.
But he's not all that healthy. And so, having Richard Hall as Rebecca's husband, as a son-in-law, is also a stroke of luck. Because Richard is a big, strong guy.
He is.
He'd do anything. But he's going to have a prostate
He's going to have some
operation.
surgery soon.
Yeah. So that's very questionable.
Yeah. Well.
Okay. Well, what more do you have?
But, you were involved with the building of the Meridian Park Hospital.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
And you designed that or helped design that?
The firm designed it.
Okay.
I didn't design it. I was part of a team working on it.
Okay.
And Carl Lindgren was the administrator, and he was a very important man because if you know Meridian Park Hospital, the nursing stations are not circular, but they're square, and the distance from the nursing station to the bedside of the patient is only about 6 or 8 steps.
Oh.
That was Carl's idea, it wasn't mine.
Oh.
Carl says, I don't want to do it. He had been the administrator of a hospital in Grants Pass, and he said the poor people that were at the end of the line were always pushing the nurse call button.
Oh.
Because they wanted to know if anybody was in the building.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he said, we're not going to do that. And so we designed, we were the first, Meridian Park was the first hospital to have a circular, or even approaching circular nursing station, which is really neat. However, some of the patients don't like it because the nurses have to talk to each other. And so some of these people can't stand the noise.
Oh, yeah.
They want it silent. But they wouldn't be happy at the end of the hall either. So.
Yeah. So they're all pretty accessible, just a short distance from the nurses.
It was. And you were good architects. The guy that was the project manager, I was a partner in charge, was a project manager. He had worked on a couple of hospitals before, so he knew the language. Because it's a separate language, as you may know. It's mostly Latin. I wish I'd taken Latin in high school, because a lot of people use Latin terms for everything.
For plants in the garden.
Plants, oh yes, absolutely. Althea's got a fantastic collection of books on plants.
Did you ever learn another language? Did you learn?
Well, I learned Norwegian.
Norwegian. Yeah.
Well, I'd say I learned it 80%. I wasn't fluent, but I could get by.
Really? That's good.
And something that's interesting that happened. Before I left to come back, I was having dreams at night. And I would be at a party and everybody speaking Norwegian, including me. No problem. I could understand them, they could understand me. And that's the way it was. And then I came back here and there was nobody speaking Norwegian, so I forgot a lot of it, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But it was a good thing to do. And people that think America's the best country in the world, that they're expressing their ignorance.
Really?
Because after you've been to Switzerland and Sweden and Denmark and Norway, you don't think that America's the best place. It's one of the best places, but it's not the best place by any means. Switzerland.
Switzerland?
For me.
Is it the beauty of the place?
Yeah, and the people. The trains ran on time. The people were friendly. The food was great. Everything was fantastic. But I couldn't live there. It was expensive. I couldn't afford to live there. But we went there. We were there about a week and a half. Traveled. I remember when I was in Eugene, before I went to college and all that stuff, my best friend had a neighbor who was Swiss. I can't remember his name. But he said, if you ever go to Switzerland, he says, go to the Bernese Oberland, the Berner Oberland. So I did. And we went to is my name is gone. Interlaken, between the lakes. And from Interlaken, we took a train up to Grindelwald, and from there up to Kleine Scheiding, and down the other side to Lauterbrunnen, which was a rift valley. It's just like that. And so here's people live down here, and here's cliffs on both sides, waterfalls. It was fabulous, fantastic.
You pronounce the names very well.
Well, I can do that. Because I learned Norwegian. An A's an A, an E's an A, and an I's an E, and a Y's an I, and the whole German, French, Spanish, I don't care, you name it. And it's the same for all those languages. They don't, I don't know why the Americans and the English, oh geez, the English. I watch the news sometimes and the English commentators, and I can't stand listening to them. Because it's at this. It just grates on my ears.
Is it? Well,
But I don't speak German, but I can puzzle out most of it. They have compound words.
uh-huh.
3 or 4 words, you may know this, together. And, the best example is in Norwegian. The name for the Bergen Steamship Company is Den Bergenske Dampskibsselskap. All one word.
Really? That's
All
a long
one word.
word.
And it's Den Bergen, you know, the Bergen Steamship,
Mhm.
Dampskib, Steamship, Selskap Company.
Huh. So it,
Not company for dinner, but
a business.
a business company. Yeah.
And they compress all that information into one long word.
One word.
Huh.
No commas, no dashes, no nothing. Just so you got to learn. When you see the big words, you go, oh, and then you look at it. Oh, that's okay. That's 3 words together, you know.
I wanted you to talk a little bit about the Wetlands Conservancy because
Yeah, we started it.
You started it.
Well, Althea and I.
Yes.
I think.
And that was when was that
I think
in
in
the
starting
19...
it, that probably 70 or 80% of it was me, and the other 20% was Althea.
Uh-huh.
But I found the whole board, got them on board.
Mhm.
So, and there wasn't nobody protecting wetlands. And I can remember I
And this
can't
was
remember
back
the mayor's
in-
name. He was a Jewish guy. He was really a nice man. But he used to bug me because he'd say, well, geez, all these swamps you're trying to save is the mosquitoes.
Ah.
And my response was that the swallows and the other birds, you know, they ate mosquitoes. So here we have a marsh right out here. No, don't have a problem with mosquitoes. Never.
Really, you don't notice even now
No.
when you're
You don't
outside.
have any mosquitoes bothering you, do you?
No,
No.
no.
Of course, this is the wrong time of day.
Yeah.
So mornings and evenings are mosquitoes time.
Okay.
But even in the evening, there's no problem.
It's beautiful to drive past the wetlands and see all the bird life, the ducks. and-
Well, there aren't that many birds anymore.
Really?
Tualatin has grown, and it's noisy. And trucks and buses and sirens and cranes.
Mhm.
The birds have left, most of them. We still have some birds.
Mhm.
Nowhere near like we used to have. We used to have birds, foxes, squirrels,
Really, foxes.
badgers, deer. Deer still come down the marsh sometimes.
They do.
Yep. And eat Althea's roses. Yep.
So that was in the 70s when you
You know, I can't
formed
remember.
the wetlands.
I should have done a little research before we
Well,
got
I
together.
did.
You did. All
'Cause
right. Well, anyway, we
when
started it.
I think it was about 1975, and you were the first director.
Yes,
And
that's true.
And,
Well, it was later than that because Althea and I didn't get married until 1981,
oh, okay.
and I think it was after that that we started the Wetlands Conservancy.
Okay. And you got 57 acres protected at first. in
I don't remember how
Tualatin?
many but they were all local here. Yes,
Uh-huh.
it wasn't a very big deal. Now they own thousands of acres,
Throughout Oregon. It's
Yes.
throughout Oregon. Isn't
mostly
it?
on the Oregon coast. But you're right, throughout Oregon.
Okay.
Esther Lev is the executive director. She's a neat lady.
Mm-hmm.
And she spends a lot of time over in eastern Oregon or down on the coast.
Mm-hmm.
And she has figured out how to joint venture with state agencies and other people,
Mm-hmm.
other organizations, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
So, like I said, nobody's a self-made man. Everything that, and when you think about it, everything that you ever did that was really great, probably somebody else suggested it,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe you didn't.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. We need each other.
well, I got to tell you that I'm enjoying this interview because
Are you good?
I had such a great childhood and youth,
Mhm.
well, my whole damn life. So I like to write about it and talk about it. I'm writing a journal, and it's just interesting that it divides into chapters,
Mhm.
like Middle Haddam, Connecticut, That's where I was born. Lived in a house built in 1740.
Middle, say that word again.
Middle Haddam. 2
Haddam.
words.
Oh, okay.
It was between Middletown and Haddam. So they called it Middle Haddam. Before that it was, I can't remember the name of it right now. I know it. But anyway, that's where I grew up.
Okay.
It was not a town, even. It was barely a village.
Oh.
And it was a shipbuilding place during the Revolutionary War and the War of 1812. So there were still all those docks rotting away along the river.
Really? Oh.
Yeah.
So you're writing a journal about your life?
Yeah.
Good.
But I haven't finished it, and I probably never will.
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
lost interest. Too bad, you know.
Oh.
Well, I guess I'm just eclipsed by everything else going on around here.
Yeah.
With caregivers coming and going and Althea's problems.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, what more do you want to know?
When you write in your journal, do you use a computer or do you
No,
write with
that's a
paper?
good question. I don't use any electronic gizmos at all. I don't have a cell phone. I don't have any kind of, you call somebody on a telephone and it rings and rings and then a voice comes on and it says, leave a message. I don't have that. I don't have any of that stuff. I'm living in the dark ages. Really old-time technology.
That could be nice, can't it? It's
Well,
a
it's
slower
a
pace.
lot simpler, let me tell you that. My son-in-law bought me a telephone that he thought was fairly simple. I told him, I'm not going to mess with that. It's all it's good. I'm 95, and why do I want to spend the next 5 years of my life trying to figure out how to use that phone? I don't need it. I'm just here. I'm traveling anywhere. I travel a lot. So when I was younger, I'd go back to Connecticut, see my friends back there. And I'd go to Santa Fe because that's where my father was. Santa Fe, New Mexico, not Texas. I didn't even know there was a Santa Fe, Texas. Now
And
it's
you went to Europe several times, or did you do one?
several times. But the big trip was the one I told you about, where in Althea.
Yeah.
But I went because my son, I didn't tell you that, but my first wife and I had a child,
Oh, you did. A son?
a son, Bertram. That's my father's name, is Bertram. In Norwegian, it's Bertram.
Yeah.
And Bertram died about 2 years ago of liver cancer.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But I have 2 grandchildren. And the girl, Alexandra, is the oldest. She's about 22 now. She's smart. God, she's smart. And she's a good-looking girl. She's not a raving beauty, but she's pretty good-looking. And she's friendly. She plays the flute, and she sang with the Norwegian Girls Choir and traveled all over hell, came to the United States, but not out here.
Okay.
New York City, Philadelphia, Boston.
Okay. So did she grow up in Norway?
Oh, yes.
And then,
Yes. But she speaks English, Spanish, Norwegian, Danish,
Really?
Swedish.
Oh,
They all do.
very, very smart.
We think we're so damn smart over here. We can't even speak English properly.
Wow. So, well, Bertram. But you and Althea didn't have any children
No,
together.
too old, I guess.
Yeah.
We're going to start another family at age 65 or whatever,
Yeah. But you have stepchildren and step grandchildren.
Well, I had 2 children, natural children. No, what am I saying? I had one, my son.
One, Bertram.
He got married and had 2 children. So I have 2 grandchildren,
Okay.
legitimate, with my genes and everything,
Okay.
over in Norway.
Okay. Oh, they're still in Norway.
Oh, they're Norwegian, absolutely. They were born there, they lived there, they would never move out of Norway. It was a beautiful country. Wow. If you ever went to Norway, you'd know what I'm talking about.
Oh, I'll have to go because I have Norwegian
You do? Well,
ancestry. So
people are friendly.
are they?
It's a beautiful country with the fjords. Oh my God.
Do you have ancestry that's
No,
Norwegian?
I'm English.
You're English. Okay.
Well, a little bit of Scotch-Irish. My mother was Scotch-Irish.
Okay.
My father was English. That is, not really. They were all born in the United States, but their ancestry, he was English. Broome is a fairly important name in England.
Why is it important? Was there a...
Well, I don't know. It just goes back to the Middle Ages, you know.
Oh, it does.
I mean, to the extent that I had an uncle whose name was Harold Broome, who went to the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C. and looked up the Broome name. And he found that it said in the Library of Congress that anybody with a Broome name could trace their ancestry back to the Plantagenet kings of England.
Oh, really? Oh.
Yes.
Oh, that's interesting.
But, you know, King John, I don't want to have anything to do with that guy. But, you know, the Lionheart, Richard the Lionheart, Coeur de Lion, and Henry's, well, there were 4 or 5 generations of Plantagenets in England. You know, like now it's the Windsor family, but then it was a Plantagenet family. So I have a good background.
Yeah, you do. And let me look at some of the notes that you made about things that you might want to talk about.
You talked about
you were,
hospital.
Hospital, and what is the MPH?
Meridian Park Hospital.
Oh, Meridian Park Hospital, of course.
Yes, of course.
And you were on the foundation
I was on the board
and the health board.
My firm designed it. I was on the board of the foundation and the board of the hospital, and then I got put on the board of the Health Link that was all those hospitals.
Okay.
I can't remember the names of them now, but you know.
Oh, they're now, is it Legacy?
Legacy.
Legacy, yes.
Legacy. Yep.
And then it says is it the UR study?
What?
Or UK study?
Urban renewal. Urban renewal.
That's for urban renewal.
Urban renewal.
Yeah, you were very involved in that.
Well, you see, what I'm saying is that nobody's self-made. I didn't get this problem. Well, I did to some extent. But Bill Finley worked for us, and Bill was the guy that came to me. I would never have heard about it. But Bill came to me and said, hey, Tualatin's interviewing for a planner to do the urban renewal study. Findlay. And so I said, okay. So we joint ventured with Cornell, Howland, Hayes, and Merrifield, CH2M. I don't know if you ever heard of them.
That sounds familiar.
They were a very large engineering firm, and we got the job.
Good.
And that started everything, because I never heard of Tualatin before. I mean, hell, it was just a wide place in the road.
Yeah. What do you think about the changes over the years in Tualatin?
Well, number one, I don't believe that the mayor should have run as long as he did. However, I'm really pretty up on Tualatin because mostly the park system. Paul Hennon, the parks director, is fantastic. He's retired. I think this coming weekend is his last days here.
Yes.
Yeah. Paul's a neat guy.
He's done a lot, hasn't he?
And yes, he has, let me tell you. And that walk along the river, that was his project. He thought of that.
The Greenway Trail?
Yeah, along the Tualatin River.
Yeah, that's very nice. Goes under the freeway and...
and it can expand on both ends.
It can.
Which is good.
That
they
is
will.
good.
But the city of Tualatin has done a good job in that they haven't just said, we're taking your land. They bought it. They paid people. So I think they've had a good board of directors. Except that guy, Lou Ginsman was the mayor.
Oh, yeah, he was
Lou Ginsman.
Yeah.
And he was a friend of mine. I liked him. But he's the one that talked about the mosquitoes. He said, I don't know why you want to do this. You're just going to have mosquitoes. Well, he didn't.
Yeah. And were you involved in the urban renewal work with the design of the commons and the lake?
Well, that came later. Althea was.
Okay.
See, a lot of stuff that I'm associated with, Althea she was the director, she was the chairman of the Urban Renewal Commission. That's how I met her. And she's the one that is involved with the commons there in the lake and all that.
Yeah.
Because all these companies were coming and they all wanted to build another shopping center. And she and the committee said, no, we got enough shopping centers. We want something better than that. So a guy that, whose name I kind of remember, worked for us, got the bright idea of building a pond and putting everything around the pond. So now we have, it's really nice. I like that restaurant over there.
It is nice.
Let's see, what else do we got here? Willowbrook house repairs. Well, of course, we don't need to put down the amount of money, but between you and I spent about $250,000 on this place. Fixing it up, tearing the porches off and fixing it up, and new ceilings and everything.
Yeah, it looks good.
And the blue,
Yeah, why did you have
that's
that
what they
painted
do back
blue?
east. And they said, because I asked them, I said, how come all the ceilings on the porches are blue? And this lady, she said, it's because of the mud dauber wasps. Mud dauber wasps associate that with the sky. And you don't see any mud dauber wasp nests, do you?
No.
We've never had any.
Is that? Oh, that's the secret. Okay.
Yeah, blue
Okay.
instead of white.
Blue on the roof of the porch.
Yeah,
On
the ceiling.
the ceiling of the
The
porch.
ceiling, it's different.
Yeah. Yes.
Roof is up there farther.
Yes.
Smith
Wow.
House. Well,
Oh, and the Smith Boone house.
yeah,
Over next to.
yeah.
this
Well,
building.
you know, they were going to tear it down. And Althea had the presence of mind to say, well, I've got room for it over here on my property. So they did. They moved it across the street and put a foundation under it. Of course, they didn't have enough money to do everything that should be done.
But
And I
it's
used to go to city
insane.
council meetings. Boy, I never missed. I went to all of them. And Lou, what's his last name?
Ginsman?
No, the present mayor.
Oh, Ogden.
Lou,
Ogden.
good old Lou.
Yeah.
I like Lou. He was a nice guy.
Yeah.
But I don't believe in mayor for life. I'm a firm believer in rotating people.
Okay.
So anyway, Lou said, well, Jack, we don't see you at city council meetings anymore. And I said, well, yeah, I've gotten older and I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
But I used to go to all of them, and I never keep my mouth shut, you know. And if you want to get elected to some position, all you got to do is talk. And then they remember that. And they say, Jack Broome. Sounds off, you know. So that's how I got to be president of the Historical Society.
That's right. You were. Do you remember how many years you were president? Was it?
I didn't stay
2 or
on too
3?
long, because I think it was only 1 year. Because, like I said, I was a believer in that there should be rotation. It should be different people.
Yeah.
You get one person like Lou, whatever his name is,
Ogden.
Ogden. God, how can I forget it? But I do. That's the trouble. You know, I don't believe in anybody, and I like Lou Ogden. And I'm kind of sorry that he lost the election. However, you should feel good that I generally feel that women in elected office do a hell of a lot better, because I'm liberal. I really am a liberal.
Yeah.
And most women are more liberal than men are.
You think so? Yeah.
So anyway, he lost, but he lost to a woman. So I think that's great.
Oh, okay.
So, okay.
Good.
And Bill Gillum helped on that building a lot. It was the two of us. I didn't do it by myself.
Was it in maintaining that building when it was still a church?
Yes.
Over on Boone's Ferry.
Oh, it leaked. Every time it would rain, the damn would be 6 inches of water down there in the basement. It would all drain out, but we speeded it up, you know.
But what a feat to then move that.
Huh?
What a feat to move that building from Boone's Ferry over here.
Well, we had to pay for it, of course.
Yeah, but a lot of people donated.
They did. They did.
And then the city must have
It was a
given
good move.
some.
But the quid pro quo was that we had to donate that building to the city. It belongs to the city, not the Historical Society.
Yes.
But that's a good thing, because if it needs painting, the city pays for it.
That's
We
right.
don't.
That's right. That's right. So, yeah.
And having Althea as my wife, you know, prompted me to do a lot of things, because we used to be able to talk about everything, you know,
Yeah,
what was going on in our.
Really?
Yes. Let's see. Well, then, of course, Althea started Willowbrook Camp.
Yes. And
I didn't get involved with that
you
project.
weren't too involved with that.
I wasn't involved at all. I stayed out of that, and it was a good thing, because that was a major effort.
It was huge. And you know, my children attended when they were young.
Oh yeah, it's
and
fantastic.
A lot of children
I'm
did.
really pro.
And
I'm
good.
to
You
be
are.
candid with you, I'm concerned now as to who's going to be running it. And I give them 2 years, and I think it's going to fold up.
Because it's a huge job. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, we'll see. But yeah, for how many years was it?
Oh my
It was
God.
started maybe 30 some years
I remember
ago.
when I was still working, I came around here and came in this back door, and there were a whole bunch of people sitting around the kitchen table. And Althea says, "Guess what? We're going to have another." She was the director of the children's program at Isamata down in California.
California, yes.
So that's what they convinced her. And they said, "Oh, we'll all help." Well, baloney, they didn't. Their kids did, a few of them. But she didn't get much help at
So
all.
it started here. Willowbrook,
Yes,
the summer program started here in the backyard.
that's right.
And
Exactly.
with just a handful of children and several
Only 30, 40 kids then.
very skilled teachers.
So then it finally,
Art,
you know,
music, and
more, and they're trying to figure out where can they go, and the city said, "Well, you could go over to that park. We're not using that park yet." So they did. That was, don't ask me when.
Oh.
I can't tell you.
I can't remember either. It might have been
It'd be
in
the
the
late 80s,
late 80s probably.
somewhere in
And,
there.
Yeah. But you know, my children they're grown now and they have their own
Oh
children.
yeah, they remember.
But they are still in touch with the friends they made at Willowbrook.
Yes, oh yes.
It was.
There's a whole bunch of them back in Brooklyn, New York, of all places.
Oh.
These kids are dancers, singers, actors,
Yes.
musicians, and they live in Brooklyn and take the tube to Manhattan, you know, and they're big stuff. Fantastic.
Yes.
I mean, it's changed their life.
It did. My children got involved in drama
Yeah.
first at Willowbrook.
Well, and they learned Elizabethan English.
Yes, yes.
That
and
was the thing. I remember one
Yes.
time standing in the back row watching this play, and a couple of ladies were in front of me, and one of them said to the other one, she says, "You know, I never understood Shakespeare until now."
So it taught the adults too.
Oh boy, it sure did.
Yeah. Well, hopefully it will continue to do that for.
I hope so. I
More
wish them good
years.
luck, but
Yeah.
they've got a bad attitude. I think they want to pay for everything. You know, they don't want to use. That was one of the good things about Willowbrook. They taught kids how to use tin cans and paper clips and whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now they want to buy stuff.
Yeah. Well, things change.
Yep.
I mean, Willowbrook itself changed from this
Yeah.
small backyard school to.
You know, it started right here.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I remember right out there in the yard.
Yeah.
Well, I want to give credit to Paul Hennon.
Yes.
That guy is fantastic. He did a lot. He really did.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of the good things, I think the best thing about Tualatin is the park system.
Okay. Yeah. That's
Unfortunately, Tualatin is in the wrong location, right on the freeway between Wilsonville and Portland and Sherwood. And
so why is that the wrong location for
Traffic.
for traffic?
oh God,
Yeah. Yeah.
all these
Traffic
people,
is-
you know, they come down the freeway, and if they want to go to Wilsonville, they turn off. They don't buy a candy bar. They don't buy a lunch. They don't buy a snack. They don't do anything. They just plug up the street with traffic.
Yeah.
The same on South.
Yeah. Yeah. The traffic is. Well, maybe someday we'll have
Yeah.
a train system that's
Well, yeah,
more
that was a good
trains.
deal. That was a good deal. I don't know who came up with that idea, but it was a good idea.
Wes, the commuter
What we
train.
call Wes, yes.
Yes. Have you ridden on Wes?
No, never have.
Oh,
Goes right by the door.
it does.
There's a station right out there.
You could catch it right
No,
out here.
Why? I don't want to go to Portland. There's nothing in Portland that I want anymore. I owned half of a building, a great big building in northwest Portland. It was Archbishop Howard's residence when he was Archbishop of the Catholic Diocese of
Okay.
Oregon.
Okay.
And when he retired, they sold the house.
Okay.
And Bud Orndolph and I bought it.
Okay. I'll write that down. I'm just writing keywords for reference.
Yeah.
So.
Well, you can. I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. So if you have a question later on,
Okay, I can call you up. Okay.
in this house, there's this great big house and 2 of us living here,
Yeah.
and 3 cats. And the cats are important. You know, they say old people should have a pet. Well, we do. And I can tell you, I'm glad we do.
They're company, aren't they?
Yeah.
They're great company.
Well, I don't see anything here.
Well, maybe we've covered everything.
I just want to stress that nobody can claim to be a self-made man.
Okay.
And a lot of times people don't say, I'm a self-made man. Other people say, well, he's a self-made man. There's always somebody that points you somewhere. And I'm happy to say that every idea that I ever got from anybody else was a good idea, not a bad idea. Nobody ever suggested I do something that I said, no, I don't want to do that.
Huh.
So I've been lucky in that regard.
Yes.
I've been lucky, period. I've made it to 95 and I'm healthy, except
Yeah.
my brain isn't what it used to be.
It's just recall. You have a lot of information up there. It's
Well,
just,
yes, but if you asked me what I had for dinner the day before yesterday, I couldn't tell you.
I don't think I can tell you what I had.
So, short term, I'm no good. Long term, boy, I can tell you all about my childhood, what I did, where I went, and so forth.
Well, if I think of more questions,
Yeah, just
I
call.
could call you up, Jack, and
You bet.
this is
Because it sounds strange. It's self-aggrandizement, I guess. But I had such a good life that I'm pleased to talk about it.
Yeah, and it's great to listen to.
Because I didn't have any horror stories. I didn't get shot down in the war.
Yeah.
Flew 59 missions. They never a problem at all. We had a hung bomb once. That was kind of scary.
What is a hung bomb? I mean,
It
it's
didn't
stuck.
release.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, and you don't land with a hung
Oh,
bomb.
you can't land with it?
Oh no, absolutely not.
Oh, what happened?
So we were
What
flying
did you
back
do?
from the target in formation, and all of a sudden everybody just did this, you know, all the planes.
Oh,
Because the bomb let go, fortunately.
oh,
Bomb bay doors opened, the bomb fell through. It was a 500-pound bomb,
oh.
you know, a big one.
What would you have done if it hadn't let go?
Been killed probably.
Gosh. Well, you were lucky.
I was
You're
lucky.
a lucky man.
Oh yeah, another time, a plane, I was scheduled to go up with a different crew, and then at the last minute they made a change or something. When this plane took off, it didn't come up fast enough, and they bent the propellers. Our planes would be 2 engine. And they flew the whole damn mission. They came back, and the air crew said, well, God, come on, look at your propellers. And they were so evenly bent that they didn't even know it. They could have crashed over the ocean. Most of our missions were over water to some island.
And if you had gone down in the water,
Oh, yeah,
that would
and-
have been it.
B-25 would float like a rock. We did that one time. Guys flew up the truck and had to come back, and couple of planes ran out of gas. They shouldn't have, but they did. And we went out and flew what they call a square search. And at another time, well, another great thing that happened was that our crew, I was a navigator bombardier. I wasn't a pilot, but I say my crew. We were one of the planes that somehow got assigned to follow the Fifth Fleet up from God knows where up to the Philippines. And boy, that was impressive. Ships of every kind as far as you could see.
Really? Oh.
Incredible. And I remember thinking, my God, what were the Japanese thinking of? They could never beat us. Well, they couldn't, and they didn't. But boy, I'll never forget that. So, okay. Thank you.
Okay.
What have we been talking? An hour?
An hour. And I bet you could tell more stories.
Oh, hell yes, I can talk forever.
Thank
Not
you.
war stories, but just life experiences.
Life, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you've had a lot of them.
And all good.
And
All good. I can't say that
You're a lucky
I've had
man.
any terrible thing that ever happened to me.
Good. Good.
Nothing.
Well, thank you so much,
Well,
Jack.
thank you for coming over.
Gosh.
I mean, on a scale of 1 to 10, I think I'm about a minus 12.
Well, mine is 12. On a scale of what?
1 to 10.
Of measuring what?
My importance to the Historical Society.
Oh, you're very important.
Well, I don't think so, but
Oh.
others do.
Oh, you're very important because you're part of this history here.
Well, yes.
And
But I've lived here 37 years. That's
Uh-huh.
not a long time. You were born here, for God's sakes. You rank me.
no, actually, I wasn't. But I've lived almost.
Have you?
My dad, my grandparents farmed here.
Oh, where were you born?
I was born in Utah, where my mother
The hell you
came
were.
from. But
You never told me that.
No, I guess
Where
I
in Utah?
didn't.
God, that's Mormon country.
It is. Well, half my family is Mormon, but
Yeah.
in Price, Utah, which is just a little town out in the mining. There are a lot of coal mines there, or there used to be.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I have a lot of Mormon friends.
Do you?
I think they're full of prunes when it comes to their religious beliefs. But,
Well, I do too, but but I love them.
yeah,
They're good people.
well, they have a good quality of life, you know, and
They do.
they're clean livers.
They are, and their family is very
Yeah.
important. So
I joined a fraternity when I was at the U of O, and we pledged a Mormon kid. But he was the worst Mormon that ever lived.
who was he?
I mean, he drank and swore. He wasn't like a Mormon.
You know what Mormons call that? They call him a Jack Mormon.
What?
A Jack Mormon.
They do. I never
I
heard
don't know
that.
where that comes from, but if you're not a good Mormon, if you're a Mormon but you don't follow it,
Yeah, well,
then you're a Jack Mormon.
this guy, he was a Jack Mormon, that's for sure.
Well,
But I knew of some other Mormons that were really great.
good.
The Dickies out in Gresham.
Oh,
Esther Dickey was the secretary of the Chamber of Commerce,
oh,
and Russ Dickey was a contractor. And they had a whole bunch of kids, naturally, as you probably
they
know.
tend to have large
You're along
families.
like with the Catholics, you know, just
Yeah.
you had to have a lot of kids because in those days they didn't all survive. Number
Yeah,
one.
that's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna. This is just an authorization that gives the Historical Society permission to hold the recordings. That
Oh,
we've
that's
made
all
of your-
right. I
is
don't need
okay?
that.
But would you sign it for us?
Oh, nice. Okay.
Just, yeah, right on that line. So,
See, Jack, I'm christened John, and
Oh,
I signed
John.
John W. Broome.
okay.
But if people call me, hey John, I don't even turn around.
Don't, yeah. 'Cause you're
Never
Jack.
used it. Why the hell my parents did that? I don't know.
Yeah.
So you want me to sign a Jack or John?
Whatever you want,
I'll sign Jack.
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 Yeah.
There's no such person as Jack Broome.
We don't-
really.
And we don't know you as John, but a lot of Johns.
Date. What is today? I can't remember.
The 24th,
It is.
May 24th.
I put the day first.
Oh, you do. That's.
The whole world puts the day first,
Oh, do they?
except the United States of America.
Yeah.
The month first.
Yeah.
So I would say May.
24th.
May what? 24?
24.
2019, right?
8. 2018.
Oh yeah, it's not 9 yet.
Not yet. Not for a few more months.
Well, that's
we
me.
were lucky with the trains. I heard
Yes.
one. I think it was a freight. train.
Yes, this time of day it would be a freight.
Okay. But
The other trains, commuter, they quit about 9 o'clock in the morning.
they do.
And then they start up again at about 3 in the afternoon.